Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Flying Pig United. We're back with some transfer news, some Glazers out news as well. Plenty to discuss today. We've got Griffo and Jarvis. How are you doing, Griffo?
I am good amidst this rainy day that we're having here in the UK. So, yeah, no, other than that, I'm good. Thank you.
Good to hear it. And Jarvis, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm super. I have a splendid time up in Norway. The sun is shining. It's been shining almost for 3 weeks, so it's very special. Never used to be like this up in the north. And a little warning. My kids are going to bed right now, so if you hear a lot of yelling in the background, no worries.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Plenty of people in the chat. Good evening to you all. Hey there, Dynamic Melon. We're all very well, thank you. Hope you are well too. Hey there as well, Matthew. Thanks for coming in. We'll send Flying Pig your wishes and regards. Hey Madhouse, you're very right. Breaking news equals no news. I got it's true. It's true. Hey, fire up at Piggy time. Unfortunately, Fly Pig's not on tonight, but you've got us. Ben Bray, thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. Good to see you as well, Berber. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. Hey there, Nick. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. And hey there to Niall. And also Simon and Johnny. Thank you all for coming in. And if I have missed anyone out, thank you all very, very much for coming on, giving the support as always. So I think we'll probably start with the takeover announcement because that's the thing what's trending right now, as well as a few other things. So we have been hearing some reports that the contract will be signed in the next few hours by the Glazer family after Qatari group entered into a bid to buy the club against the offer. And it has said that those in circle close to Qatar have now begun to express their confidence in victory, and they believe it's only a matter of time before the official announcement is made. And people are thinking that it's going to be in the next few hours. Just want to get your thoughts on that first of all, Jarvis.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The Raya.com source is a very credible source. It's an Arabic daily newspaper, and it's one of the big five in Qatar, and they are partly state owned and very reliable. So what's come out tonight is very big. But the thing is, today is 4th of July, so I don't think anything will be announced tonight anyway. But it's looking good if you like the Qataris and for the Glazers to leave. That will be the perfect ending of a long story. I think we're all sick of this takeover, and we just want it to end so we can start with the new clean sheets and money from Qatar to buy players, because this transfer window has been. It's been a drag. We have seen the Mason Mount thing for a month now, and finally he signed today. So, yeah.
Exactly. Robert has said that hour will take 1 month. Man United are very serious. Well, I can see why Robert thinks that completely. What's your thoughts as well, Griffo?
It feels as though it's been a few hours since February, to be honest. Every now and then we get a report that it's going to happen in the next few days. I'm of the mind now that I'm just waiting. I'm not looking at any of the reports. I'm not looking at any newspapers, even though this one is probably as credible as we've had. I'm just waiting for the official announcement from the club itself, because we've been thrown in to like a washing machine or tumble dry. We're just going round and round and round and round, aren't we, with all these different reports? So yeah, it looks very likely that it's going to be Qatar now, which, in my opinion, is probably best for the club. It's been very quiet on the Ratcliffe front. Sort of his bid's dying out a little bit. So, all intents and purposes, and all the reports are suggesting it's Qatar. It's just when. I think we're a bit past Qatar having any sort of impact on this transfer window at the moment, because they'll have to, of course, come in, do all the deals, contracts, documents, all of that. So I think we're a bit past the point of them having any impact on this transfer window. Maybe they'll have a little in terms of say, but I don't think we're going to see a massive Qatari window. That's probably going to come in January or next summer. We still have to balance, of course, with FFP and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I just want it to end. Like Jarvis said, like everyone will probably say in the chat, this just needs to end, because we have been hearing it's coming in the next few hours, as I said, since like February, March time. It seems to be on the horizon, and it just has never come. There's been a delay here, a delay there. The Glazers have milked this situation as much as they possibly can, and let's just hope that this report for once is right. We can get the deal done, and we can get the Qataris in. And like I said on the stream, it was probably the last stream we did, this needs to be a euphoric moment for Man United. We're getting rid of the Glazers, but when that's announced, it's probably going to be more relief than celebration, because we've been so much sent all these reports span around in this circle. So yeah, I think it looks like the Qataris, and I just be relieved more than sort of happy when it's over, to be perfectly honest with you.
Matthew did say that there's no truth in this, unfortunately. It wouldn't be surprising if that was the case, but I completely agree with what both of you have said, is that it has gone on for far too long. The Glazers have milked every single thing possible. As much as I do despise the Glazers, as well as everybody else, Aaron even did mention there in the chat that the day the Glazers leave, it should be called Independence Day. Like, that is just a quality comment. But I think for me is, as much as I hate the Glazers, just like everybody else, they could milk it as much as they wanted, because at the end of the day, it wasn't another Chelsea situation where they had to sell. Because we've spoke about this for weeks, as to say, right, they could pull out at any point if they really wanted. They could change their mind from Qatar to Jim Ratcliffe, or they could go to even a bidder who was very private and was not known publicly. They could have gone to absolutely anybody. So I think for me it's just, I think as soon as we do see something, we do get a bit of optimism to think, it's just that kind of one stage quicker there that it is going to happen. But even to the point where the Glazers do sign this contract in the next 48 hours, for instance, it's still going to take a long time legally to get everything fully Qatar, because they've still got to buy the other share of Man United, and then they've got to speak to solicitors to try to get all the paperwork completed, really, right, Griffo?
Yeah, it's really delayed as much as it possibly can. I think, as you said, they probably could delay a bit more. Yeah, like I said, I don't think they'll have too much of an impact. Hi, Eddie in the chat. I don't think they'll have too much of an impact on this transfer window, just because of how long it's gone on for. We'll see the proper impact in January, and then the summer window to go. Obviously, we still have FFP to consider. That doesn't get eradicated because Qatar have just come in. They don't, they're not immune to FFP. So we'll have to consider that. Obviously, sales would help with that, but obviously we all know the situation with sales at the moment. So yeah, documents do need to be signed and all of this. Fingers crossed that a deal and an agreement has been in place for a while, and they're sort of doing all of these little nitty bitty stuffs behind the scenes. I doubt that, because Man United often leak like a sieve in any capacity, whether it's the players, the signings, or above board in the hierarchy. So I doubt that, but we're optimists. We have to be if we're Man United fans. So I think, yeah, I don't see the documents being done behind scenes without us knowing, but I think this is an elongated process. And just my final point on what you were saying, Maisie, about the way the Glazers have ran the sale. Unfortunately, it was their prerogative, because they are the ones selling. They're always going to stretch it out. Obviously, no one was going to expect a fast sale like Chelsea, because, as you were saying, there were situations going on there, and they had to get rid of Roman Abramovich and bring in Todd Bowley. So that was having to be done quick. There were government interjections as well with that. Man United was never going to be as quick as that, because there was none of those involvements of the government, none of the external context situations. And put it simply, Man United are a far bigger club than Chelsea when it comes to the asset of the club itself. So it wasn't going to be overnight, but I think we're beyond the point now where it's the expected time. And I keep saying it, the second the business side of the sale affected the football side of Manchester United was when it was too far, because us fans, we're not business experts. I mean, some of us might be in the chat, but we don't really care about the business side of it. We're just football fans. We want to support Man United Football Club, and the business is now affecting the transfer market because we're not going to get players in. We're not going to get that massive injection of cash. So it's gone on too long now, and that is a concern.
The one affects the other, like vice versa. So that's the way it is. When it comes to the process of the sale, when the contract is signed, the Qataris, if the Qataris comes in, have to pay out the Glazers first. Second, they have to pay out the debt of the club, and third of all, they have to pay out the remaining shareholders on the New York Stock Exchange, the last 31%. That's the thing that will take time. I heard it will take up to 3 months to get it done. So it will take a little bit of time before everything is signed and everything is approved and everything is ready. But the thing is, I have read that the moment they sign the contract, the Qataris are ready. They are ready to come in with money. So if they sign tonight, we can buy player with Qatari money tomorrow, as it seems, because it's they have overdrafts from the Banco Qatari as the backup, and I think things can move very fast if we get the contract signed. So I think we can still save this window, but things have to move fast, and we can't wait until the last day of the window.
There was reports as well about Man United still having, what was it, like 300 mil in terms of transfers to pay out, because of course there's some add-ons and stuff we still need to sort all that out. So there's so much money that needs to be injected in even before we can think about spending 100 mil on a Harry Kane or something, even though it's unlikely at this point now. So yeah, it is important, and as much as we want the players, I think right now, for anyone, the priority would probably be to clear that debt, to put money into that stadium, to stop it from literally collapsing, and just to sort all of the sort of loose ends that the Glazers have left us in this situation.
Yeah, and Casey here is absolutely spot on. Is the Glazers have no soul, respect, and driven by greed, so they absolutely don't care what the supporters or the club is going through. I completely agree with that. And as well, there was a comment here from Simon: is time to sell players to make more money. We must start selling soon. And you know what? We're genuinely, at this moment, probably one of the worst clubs in the Premier League for selling players, because you're looking at, like, I don't know if you've seen the recent news with Manchester City selling a player a goalkeeper who's played nothing but League One at the highest, selling him on for 19 million, but we think we can't get anything more than 15 million for Dean Henderson, who's a Premier League proven goalkeeper.
Yeah, but to who? Who did they sell him to?
Yeah, that's the point.
Burnley.
Yeah,
Who's
but who's the
manager
manager of Burnley?
But the thing is you think Nottingham, because we're looking at selling Dean Henderson to Nottingham Forest, for instance, and I think Nottingham Forest is going to be, in a kind of way, desperate to buy him, because they're not going to rely on Wayne Hennessy as a number one goalkeeper coming to next season.
That's true.
Yeah.
But like 15 million. Sorry, Jarvis, but like 15 million for Dean Henderson. Like, if Nottingham Forest are this keen on Dean Henderson, I think we should be looking at least double for that. 25, 30 million. Because Nottingham Forest, as you say, I don't think they can go into next season with Wayne Hennessy. Of course, there's other goalkeeping options. They got by when Henderson got injured by loaning in Navas. So there's always options, but 15 million for a really, really, really key position. It just seems so cheap, and it just adds to the complete goalkeeper confusion that we have at Man United at the moment. De Gea seems to have been actually fully gone now. We probably can pull that back if he finally accepts the contract, but it's looking likely. Contrast the reports about Onana. Are we going in for the Feyenoord keeper, or are we going in for Kevin Trapp at Frankfurt? What's going on here? What's going on there? So another mess of a situation.
Yeah, agreed completely. And Berber here is absolutely spot on, is that we give massive wages to players who've achieved nothing and then we can't resell them. Example, as I like to call him, Fartiel. That's what I call him. Just because I've had more farts that achieve better things than Martial right now, so maybe that can run a little bit quicker as well. But Gaming King thinks Man United will buy Mbappe. I like to say, I'd like the optimism, but I just can't see it.
I'll have whatever he's having in terms of the optimism there. I think loving it, Kylian Mbappe.
Mark N has said fans hyped Martial last season over Ronaldo, only for him to do what he does every season. Pre-season Suarez, I guess injured 70% of the season. The player who always used to turn up in terms of pre-season was always Andreas Pereira. He always turned up in pre-season, and then he just never turned up for the rest of the season, didn't he, Jarvis?
Yeah. His name was Pre-Season Pirlo. So he was excellent. He always had some super goal into the cross and from 30 yards or something. He was a good pre-season, but we see now he got the chance in Fulham. Now he's doing actually good. He had a great season this season. He had a lot of assists and he got to play a lot of football. So I hope that he can call Fred and say to Fred, come to Fulham. You get to play. So that will be excellent. 20 million in the bank. We can buy Amrabat. Perfect.
Though, who I've seen Fred linked to today was the Saudi League. The Saudi League finally wants our Deadwood, Griffo.
Here we go. This is it's about time Saudi, stop looking at Chelsea and start looking at Man United. I think it'll be a shame for Fred to go to the Saudi League. Obviously, I don't sort of slander any player that goes to the Saudi League because, it's their job at the end of the day, football. And if you're going to be paid an extortionate amount of money, which a lot of players in the Saudi League are, you'd be a fool to reject it. Of course you would. But it would be a shame because I think Fred can still do a job. I think Fulham's a perfect team for him, really. I think if he comes in as a João Paulinho replacement, I think maybe that's probably a bit off there. But I think he's a fantastic player to have in a Fulham. And I think a team like Aston Villa or someone who will be playing a lot of football because they're in the Conference League this season or stuff like that, I think he'd do a job there. I still would like out of McTominay and Fred to see Fred stay and McTominay go because I think Fred is probably a better squad player for us than McTominay is. But if he leaves Fred, I wouldn't want him to go in the Saudi League because I think he's better than that. And I think he can still do a job in a really decent Premier League team. And, Fulham are building something at the moment. They've got likes of Mitrovic, Pereira, as you were saying, Paulinho, if they can keep hold of him. Bringing in Fred, they've got a nice defence as well. Leno's good in goal. So Fulham are building something at the moment. Of course, they had probably one of the best seasons a promoted team's had. Probably not the best because obviously Wolves have done stuff like that in Leeds and Brentford obviously as well. So everyone was sort of expecting Fulham to be near the relegation zone. I've turned this into, flying pig Fulham here. I apologise. But I'm just a massive fan of Fulham. But I think Fred will do a job for Fulham, to be honest. So it'd be a shame to see him go to Saudi Arabia.
To be honest, though, the only player I like from Fulham is Paulinho, and everyone knows who knows me. I'm a massive fan of Paulinho, and I think really the last time I seen a team who finish in the top half of the table, from what I can remember, was Sheffield United when they actually had Dean Henderson in that Premier League side. I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head more recent because I think Brentford finished in the second half, the top half of the second half, didn't they? In the first
newly
season?
promoted teams?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wolves' first season, didn't they? They got Europa League. I'm not sure how long ago that was. That was what, 2018, 2019. Leeds' first season. They did well. I don't think they finished. They probably finished 9th or 10th. So, yeah, I don't know where. I think Fulham finished like 11th in the end or 10th. So mid-table. We're all expecting Fulham to go straight back down. It's what they do. So to define that is excellent, and what a job that Marco Silva and the players have done.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Chinese gaming's question because I was going to go on to the Mason Mount's announcement. Mount is going to join United, but where does he fit in the team? I think Mount is best at the 10, but you've also got Bruno Fernandes. Hit it away, Jarvis.
Yeah, I hear people say that. The thing is, last season, Bruno, he played, I think it was 6,600 and something minutes in one calendar year. And he's the player in the world who played the most minutes. So I think we got to expect he will have a burnout next season. It's unhuman to play that amount of minutes at a high level. So Mason Mount will probably be a good backup for Bruno, so he will get some well-earned rest. But when you come back to the tactical aspect from Ten Hag, when he played in the Netherlands at Ajax, he always played with 2 number 8s. That's Ten Hag's style. He played with I think it was the guy who went to Everton, Klaassen or something, and Frenkie de Jong, and he had Donny in the 10. So he always played with 2 number 8s. So that's why I think he bought Mason Mount. He want to play him in the 8. And I can see him do that because Mason Mount's work rate is fantastic. He can play a lot of games at a high level. He's always consistent. I think he will suit Ten Hag, and I think we will see a different Ten Hag, especially if we get Onana as a goalkeeper, so we can push our backline higher and get to what do you call it, compromise the midfield a little bit and create the overloads we want. So I'm really excited by the Mason Mount signing. I think he will give our squad something special. I think we will find out that and see, and I think a lot of people will be proved wrong when they were skeptical of Mount. The only thing at the moment I see with Mason Mount is we need another more defensive midfielder to be backup for Casemiro, because if Casemiro is injured, it's very hard for us to play. We saw it last season when he was out. We struggled immensely. So next season, I think we should get another defensive midfielder. That's why I mentioned Amrabat. There was a lot of rumors about Amrabat yesterday. For those who don't know him, he was the player who was so good for Morocco in the World Cup. He plays in Fiorentina in Serie A. He's more of a deep-lying playmaker. His short passing game is okay, but his attributes is the medium to long pass range. And, he's very, very good at, moving the ball around. And he plays to one side and shifted it to the other side. So it will fit Ten Hag's system perfectly. And he's a very good tackler, and he's good at taking on people and dribbling and carrying the ball. So I think he can contribute a lot. So I would get him for 30 million. And if we can sell Fred for 20, it's almost a done deal, even with a tight budget.
Absolutely. And what's your thoughts as well, Griffo? Where do you think Mount will play, and do you think we can? The question from Ravi is, can United play a 3-man midfield with Mount? I personally say yes, but what's your thoughts, Griffo?
I think so. I think Jarvis made the good point about Ten Hag liking to play a bit more advanced, having Mount and Bruno a bit more advanced. We can do that because we have such a good defensive midfielder in Casemiro, who can sort of deal with the load. Maybe that becomes a worry in a season or two time where he slows down a little bit. So I think, a 3-man midfield of Casemiro, Mount, and Bruno, I think is more balanced than people are giving credit for, because I think Mount can operate in an attacking sense, and I think he's obviously not the be or end all of defensive midfielders, of course, but he can do a job defensively. We've seen Bruno loves to track back as well, so a real balance in midfield there, and it was a really good point of really good point from Jarvis. I think it was the stream before or the stream just before that was about fitness. And you mentioned again there, Jarvis, about these players not getting injured. Bruno plays so many minutes. Obviously, there'll be a burnout eventually, and you can't really foresee injuries, especially like odd ones, dodgy tackles here, there. Mount, another player that plays a lot of football, of hardly getting injured. Casemiro, I think we didn't really. The only reason we necessarily missed Casemiro was through suspensions. He got, of course, that accumulated too many yellow cards, got 2 red cards, so we missed him a lot. But it was all mainly suspensions. I don't think we missed him for injury any more than a game or two. And I don't think at Real Madrid he had that particularly a strong injury record. I think he was relatively fit most of the time there as well. So obviously we do need a backup defensive midfielder, and I think Amrabat's a good choice. As you said, he performed well for Morocco in the World Cup. And of course, he played West Ham in that Conference League final. And I watched that Conference League final. And of course, Declan Rice was there for West Ham, and he's just gone to Arsenal for 100 mil. Amrabat didn't really look too much out of place in that midfield battle between West Ham and Florentino. I thought he was right there. So if Arsenal go and get Rice for 100 million, which they have, we can get Amrabat for what, 25, 30 million. I think that's a really good steal. The question is, with this tight budget, with the way we're selling players, how important is that defensive midfielder in the priorities? I probably put it, now we've got Mount, I probably put it third. I'd probably say striker, goalkeeper, or probably, I think that order, striker, goalkeeper, and then backup defensive midfielder. I think that's the limit. I don't see us getting a centre-back or another fullback, and I think necessarily we might need another fullback. But I think Amrabat is a fantastic choice as well, because I think if he's willing to come in, and I mean, he's 26, I believe, Amrabat, when I looked. Casemiro for the last probably another 2 seasons at the top level in the Premier League, and then he fades off. Amrabat's coming into his prime. Ten Hag is a big admirer of Amrabat. Ten Hag, I think, that brought Amrabat through Utrecht. So there's a connection there, there's a relationship there, and Ten Hag obviously is a massive fan of Amrabat. So I really hope that these links are proper and we get a player like Amrabat in. Obviously not sacrificing budget for a top-class keeper and a top-class striker, which we need ahead of a backup DM. But I think Amrabat's a fantastic, fantastic choice.
Absolutely. I completely agree with both your comments, and Amrabat was definitely one I wanted to touch on as well in today's show, because I think Amrabat is absolutely fantastic, and it has been mentioned in the chat as well that we do need a defensive midfielder. I said it is one of the priorities, not as much as a goalkeeper or a striker, but it is a priority because you do need someone to replace Casemiro when he does get a suspension. And with them red cards, it is quite concerning, it is quite worrying. And I think for me, I think he's absolutely solid. I think for me, he's one of them type of players. He is willing to step up. He has stepped up at the highest levels. The only problem that I could think of, would Amrabat be happy to be a backup option? Realistically, knowing that he's getting in that Moroccan team, he's getting into Florentina's team, and he could get into probably a lot of other teams, probably slot into that number 1 spot.
If you can convince him with what I've just said about sort of being the understudy of Casemiro for a season or two and then going into the main team, and it's obviously very difficult to say you're going to be an understudy because we don't know where we're going to be in 2 years' time. No one knows where any club's going to be in 2 years' time. Might be a great DM that comes through the youth academy that's had this meteoric rise to the top that we want to try out. Or there might be another DM we get cheap or anything. So it's hard to make promises. But I think that relationship that he has with Ten Hag, I keep going back to the fact that Ten Hag gave him his break at Utrecht. So I think that there's going to be trust there. And I think if Amrabat remains and keeps that trust in Ten Hag, and there's no reason why he doesn't, I can see him maybe agreeing. And you say backup, and by the letter of the law, he would be a backup. But you've got to consider that United were Champions League this season, when Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. We played a lot of the same players in a lot of the 4 competitions last season. And you could see at the end we limped over the line because of wear and tear with players and fitness. So Amrabat will get plenty of game time if Ten Hag rotates the squad like we hope he will. So I don't think the backup is a term that is probably right for an Amrabat signing. Obviously, as I said, he technically would be because Casemiro is better, but he'll play loads of games. So I think he's second to Casemiro, but he'll still get lots of game time, and I don't see why that would be a bad thing for Amrabat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the thing with Amrabat, he's not a 6, but he's not an 8. He played as right back. He's versatile. He can do several roles in the midfield. And the thing is, I would say he's more of a deep lying playmaker, so he can drift down and collect the ball and move it upwards, and then that's what's so good about him. But his only weaknesses, he won't offer much in terms of attacking contributions like goals and assists. He's not that type of players. So, but we also need people who distribute the ball and give them to the attackers and those who contribute offensively. And Amrabat, he has so many things to offer. I think he has a high FB referee ball. I studied the last night or 2 days ago with Amrabat. He doesn't look very impressive when you see his sheet. It's not much green and a little bit of yellow and a lot of red. But when you go into the stats, I compare them to Casemiro. I compare them to Fred McTominay. I compare them to Caicedo and other midfielders like Rice. And one of his biggest attributes compared to those guys is his success rate. It's 70.6% in takedowns and dribblings. So it's showcasing his skills when it comes to that. He's a ball player, With Fred and McTominay, we are used to the hot potato, hot. We just lose it right away. But Amrabat, he takes the ball, he takes control of the game. He dictates the tempo, and when he receives the ball, he never loses it. That's a really good attribute. We saw it a little bit with Eriksen last season, but Eriksen, he got the injury, he gassed out, and I'm not sure if he's ever going to come back. I hope he can with a good preseason, but I wouldn't count on it. He's getting older, so getting Amrabat would be a great replacement for Eriksen and the backup for Casemiro. So it's very versatile when it comes from Ten Hag's options. So that's also a good plus for us getting him.
Absolutely. Hey as well, David. Thanks for coming in. Good to see some supporters from Jamaica. Casey has said Amrabat's stats do not jump off the table, come up, but he definitely passes. I know there was a couple of comparisons with Caicedo. Marcus said, does anyone think Amrabat starts ahead of Caicedo and anywhere near even to Kamena?
It's like apples and pears. You can't compare them. It's different kind of players. He's a deep lying playmaker. That's not Caicedo. He's not a deep lying playmaker in my mind, and not even Tchouaméni. It's different roles.
Yeah, I think as well we get hit up on the fact, especially with potentially Qatar money coming in, that all 23 players of our squad need to be world class. Not even Man City have that. They have it close, obviously, because they're uber successful, but no team ever in the history of football will have a squad of 23 players that are all the world class and the best and second best in their position. It just won't happen. Mainly because players probably don't want to play second fiddle if they're that world class. So yeah, some players you have to go. Obviously, they're not the best, but for our given situation, they're perfect. And I think Amrabat is that. Like I said about him hitting his sort of 27, 28 years old prime as Casemiro's dipping down a little bit. Interchange, Casemiro goes, Amrabat comes in. It's a natural transition, and then we go from there. But yeah, I think it's all within context. Every transfer is context. And yep, Caicedo would have been good. I wouldn't have really wanted us to spend 80 million, especially this sum on him. Tchouaméni, I don't know how much he'll cost. I do like Tchouaméni. Well, apart from the fact that he scored that incredible goal against England in the World Cup, but I'm sure we can look past that if he signs for United. Yeah, he'd be good, but I think for the context we're in, I think Amrabat is a fantastic player to have in this given situation.
Yeah, completely agree. Question from Alex: will Mount be played on the wing? I personally don't think he will, unless there's injuries for me. Unless Anthony and Sandro are both injured, I can't see Mason Mount playing on the wing for Man United personally. Could you at all, Jarvis?
Yeah, we saw it last season. Ten Hag likes to do it. He played Bruno on the wing several times. So you never know with Ten Hag. He has a special way of seeing football. I just want to get back to Amrabat with one more point.
Yes.
If we get Amrabat, because then we have the option to play Amrabat and Casemiro together when we go away against the top 6 teams. We struggled with that last season. With 2 more defensive-minded players, we will be much more resilient when we come up against the better teams, especially away. So that's also a good attribute for him. When it comes to Mount, I think he can play on the wing. Like I would compare him maybe to Phil Foden or something. He a little bit technical, but he also can run a lot and be involved in the game. So yeah, he could do that role, but I would rather see him in the 8. I think that's what Ten Hag wants to do.
Yeah, and Berber's spot on. Play him in his position. Don't ruin him like Mato. You've got to play him there in his position, because a player's gonna put their 100% best in if they're gonna be played right. They're gonna be used right. And there was a question in the chat from Raja about how about Bruno at the 9. I wouldn't do it, because it just takes all the creative qualities away from that in the squad personally. What would you do, Griffo?
Definitely anything that isn't playing Bruno at number 9, to be honest. We've tried everything with the number 9 in the sort of the proper false 9 striker position. We've tried Rashford there, Martial when he's fit. I'm sure if we were allowed, we'd probably play the groundsman there. We'd probably play a few fans there as well. So we just need a striker. I think that is the one position where, or probably as well as goalkeeper, but that's the one or second position where we just don't need to cheap out. We don't need to go, oh, we can maybe play Rashford there for a season and get a buy. No, we tried that last season. Rashford's best position is on the left wing. It was his best season for us because he played on that left wing. Get a striker that can score goals. That is the most crucial position for Man United this season. It has been, it still is. And the fact that only now the Hojlund rumours is slowly surfacing, slowly coming into fruition. Knowing Man United's negotiating skills, we probably won't get Hojlund in by the time we play Wolves. So in a month's time. So, get ready for ice cold Tony against Wolves. So I think that, I think the striker, we can't say, I'll try this, try that. We just need a proper number 9 that can score goals. And if Hojlund's that, Hojlund's that. Obviously, Kane was probably the perfect option for me. He's gone. Oh, he might go Bayern Munich, and Daniel Levy probably doesn't really want to sell to Man United. He's making it very difficult. If Hojlund's that, Hojlund's that. So we'll just have to go with that. But don't start messing around with players. And as you said, when it's the same thing when we played Rashford at striker, we didn't have Rashford on the left wing. And Rashford on the left wing is one of our most dangerous players. Put Bruno at the number 9, that loses our creative output just slightly behind him. If we start moving players around, we lose what happens in that position. Same goes for when we put Luke Shaw at centre-back. Luke Shaw at centre-back, fantastic player, but we lose something at left-back because Tyrone Malacia isn't up to the standards of Luke Shaw yet. So if we start moving players around, we might sort of fill the hole, stop the leak somewhere, but there's another leak coming out where you've just moved your hand to put, if you get what I'm saying. So, I think we just need a world-class number 9, and there's probably no real other solution to it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. What was you going to say, Jarvis?
Yeah, when it comes to Hojlund, I love Hojlund. I think he will be perfect for us. His pace is incredible. As I have said 100 times, he can run the 100 meter in 11 seconds. That's extremely fast. And he has something with him. He's not a prolific goal scorer at the moment, but he's young and he can learn. I have seen a lot of videos of him and how he moves his body, how he places himself with the defender in his back and receive the ball so he can touch it one time and get a shot. So I think he's a smart player. I think he will I think he will learn very fast when it comes to the Premier League, but he needs time to learn, and that's the only thing. But when I see Ten Hag, I think maybe we will only sign one striker this summer window, because I think his plans is to use Rashford as a number 9 and implement Garnacho more on the left. That's my thoughts on what Ten Hag is thinking. You know, I don't know him. I don't have his direct line, but you know, I have seen a lot of Ajax and when they played in Ajax. And you know, if he sign Hojlund, that will be the second Danish player he signs out of the first 8 players. So you know, Ten Hag loves Danish players. When he played at Ajax, he also had a Danish number 9 who was Kasper Dolberg, and he was really good. He was a young up-and-coming striker. So it's almost the same now with Hojlund. So I think Ten Hag is going for Hojlund, and I think we are going to pay the price we have to pay. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 55, 60, but we will pay the amount we need to pay, because I think Ten Hag wants him.
It's a good point about the pace, actually, because I don't know how tall Hojlund is. I don't know if you know how tall he is, whether he's
6'3".
Yeah, I don't think height is the most important thing when you're a striker at Man United, because obviously the wingers and the wide players, they don't really cross the ball hardly any. You know, our main crosser of the ball is really probably Luke Shaw, who plays at left back. So I think height probably isn't important, and I think with pace you can maybe integrate yourself in the Man United attack far more than if you didn't have pace and you were just a tall striker. Like when we had Weghorst, the one thing that Weghorst had was height, and again we didn't really put the balls into him, and he didn't really head the ball, and when he did it went miles wide.
But Weghorst was crap in the air anyway.
Yeah, this is true.
Jumping like this.
This is true, but I think Hojlund is sort of a good striker because of that pace, so he can really slot into that attack with the Rashford on the left and Anthony on the right and Bruno behind, rather than sort of having a Weghorst figure that doesn't have much pace. It's just tall, that sort of is a bit out of place up front.
Anders said, "Look at Weghorst, taller than an elder tree. I can't head the ball for a packet of sweets." Well, if you look at, for instance, I know, like, I'm one of the kind of people, I do like to watch a lot of players, but you look at all the strikers that Ten Hag has signed under his managerial career, they've all been under 6 foot, over 6 foot, over 6 foot, the strikers. So that shows that I think he wants that little bit of height, and I think coming to the end, near the end of the season, I think our corners and set pieces were a tiny bit predictable, where we knew that we wanted to get it into Casemiro. We wanted to get it into Maguire if Maguire was there. And I think having that extra bit of height there of Hojlund, if we was to get Hojlund or another striker, I think that gives a bit more competition to, right, Casemiro's there, Hojlund there, for instance. You've got, even though Martinez is small, he can do a bit of an header. I think you've got a lot more options, I would personally say.
It's true. There's other strikers who are we are linked to, like Koulibaly and of course Harry Kane, but I don't think it will happen. Yeah, maybe if we get the Qataris in and we have the money, but Harry Kane will be. I don't think Levy will sell him to us for less than 100 million euros. I think he's a tough bargain. What do you guys think about Harry Kane? Is he an option?
No, I can't see Harry Kane being an option anymore, to be honest. I think that I don't think he wants to go, personally, in my opinion. So I think this is the problem, is you look at last season with Frankie de Jong, we spent so much investment trying to get Frankie de Jong for majority of the summer, and it just didn't go there, and we missed out on things that we could have really bidded out for. I think Manchester United have probably done the right thing, missing out on Kane. I know there's Gulamani who we're linked to. Another one who it has took a lot of dividing in the fan base was Taremi from Porto. He's also linked to Manchester United, but they're saying it's as a backup striker for 20 million euros. As you all know, I'm a big fan of the Portuguese league, and I think if we are going to get a cheap option, especially if it's going to be a backup, I'd actually invest that 20 million euros into him, just because you look at that, he's scoring 20 plus goals season in, season out. We need that. And I think a lot of people don't like his age. They say it's 30. But then we said the same with Casemiro last year.
I think he's 31. But his stats is amazing. He scored last season. He scored 22 goals. The season before 20, so 16. He scored a lot of goals in the Portuguese league. And if people don't know him, he's the Iranian player who played for Iran under the World Cup. He's really good. I like him. He's like it's not a little bit similar to Harry Kane in his playing style. To be honest, he's very involved in the game and he know how to finish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And most players say Kane will make us title candidates, but I see your point. Have you watched much as Tarameni as well, Griffo?
No, to be honest, not at all. So I won't speak on Tarameni because I don't know much about him. 20 mil for a backup striker though, with our current budget, I obviously prices are going up. We're not going to get a backup for 10 million, but we have to be careful of how much we're putting in actual backups. Kane's a perfect choice for me. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen now. So is Casemiro 29?
No, he's 31. That's what I was going to say. Casemiro's 31.
I was going to ask you then, Maisie, because obviously you're a big fan of the Portuguese league. I've seen Ramos for Benfica linked a lot, and people have been talking about him on Twitter. And of course, he scored that hat trick for Portugal in the World Cup. So I'm wondering if Man United went for him as the lead striker. Is he good enough, do you think, to convert his form and his goals into the Premier League?
So Ramos, I think he's had a fantastic season, but this is the first season he has actually gone into as a proper a lone striker. Before that, he was dropping back into the 10, the 8, the winger. He played as a striker from time to time, so this is the first time he has been a lone striker this season, and he has been absolutely spectacular. 69 million euros, you can't complain at that price either. But I do think, in my opinion, he needs one more season there in the Portuguese league, because right now, as much as he's getting them goals, he's getting in them right spaces, I do personally think that he's still quite raw. And I think for me is, as much as the Portuguese league is so good in terms of developing players into the next level, I think that if you leave the Portuguese league too soon, you could tell you've left pretty soon as well, if you get what I mean. So, like you look at, for instance, Darwin Núñez. I even think that he could have done with another season in the league as well, just because of the fact that he was playing in the 4-4-2 and coming into a low striker situation didn't help him out. So, in my personal opinion, I do think he does need one more season at a minimum in the Portuguese league before Man United was to go for him. But there could be some more clubs who do go for him next season. Maybe Benfica might even put the price up, just because he may win the league twice in a row next season. He may win more trophies. They're in Champions League as well next season. So I think it is a 50-50 risk for Ramos right now.
Macy, what kind of type of striker is Ramos?
I think Ramos, for me, he is one of them kind of strikers that he does like to drop deep in terms of trying to fend for himself, because he has done that on the numerous of occasions, because he has played in numerous of different positions, and he is a great playmaker type of striker. But I have seen quite a few misses as well from Ramos this season. As much as you've seen he's got a load of goals, he has missed a fair few amount of goals as well. And I don't think his position in terms of his goal is 100% there yet right now. And I would be looking at someone a bit more experienced.
Hmm. Yeah, but he's an interesting player. But to be honest, I don't see us getting Ramos. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about him if he has the attributes Ten Hag is looking for. How is his pace? Is he any good, or is he
He is
fast?
pretty quick. He is pretty quick. He is a pretty quick striker, if you want me to be honest. And I
Hmm.
think his pace will come very good if he wants to come to the club or whoever club that he does go to. Because I have seen that he is very, very quick. So I do think that his pace is all there, but I just think it is the way he is on goal at the moment. It can be still a bit better.
Yeah.
I think what we've gathered from the last 5 minutes is that there's not a definitive striker choice. There's probably only one almost perfect striker in the world right now, and he's playing the other side of Manchester. So in terms when we're not going to get him, even with Kane, there's the age doubt. So yeah, there's not a perfect choice to go with, which is probably a bad thing and a good thing because it allows us to broaden our horizons a little bit. Kane was the ideal. Obviously, age of concern, a lot of the budget will go as well. So now we definitely need to keep because De Gea's gone. So the Kane ship has almost sailed. But you look at likes of Hojlund. I like getting players when you have, because he is quite young, isn't he, Hojlund, and relatively unknown previously. So I like getting players like that because he can build on who he is at Manchester United, and it's not like we've signed the top class striker of Kane and he's done good for Tottenham and United. We've signed Hojlund, who did well at Atalanta, but everyone will remember him as a United player because of what he did at United. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but Hojlund is obviously a big risk. He hasn't proved himself at a high level, consistent level for seasons after season. So that's the only issue with Hojlund, as I see it. It's a very big risk. There's no guarantees that he will come true and even be a success. He might be like a over expensive Sancho who can't perform for season after season. And we know how the United fans are. You either perform right away or you're in the icebox because we have very high expectations to our players, and that's also a big problem for young players to come in because you have to have the right mentality. We know if Hojlund has the right mentality. We know if we get Kane, it's easier. So it's also a big risk, but in the end of the day, as long as Ten Hag sees him and wants him, that's the only thing we can go for, because I trust my manager when it comes to this.
It's a question though, Jarvis, is we all know that, well, from what we've been hearing is that Hojlund is supposed to be a Manchester United fan. Do you think people probably look at that more and go, that's why you want Hojlund, because he's a Man United fan, he's following Rashford, he's like post from 2015 and Marcus Rashford?
Yeah, but if Hojlund was linked to Barcelona or something and was probably going there, he would say, "I've been a Barcelona fan all my life." This is how you get legend status. It's just the footballers today. They are like this. But yeah, I believe him. A lot of Scandinavians, the fan base in Scandinavia for Liverpool and Man United. It's only two teams in Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. That's Liverpool and Man United. So it's a 50-50 if he likes Me United or not.
Mad House is right though. They're all Man United fans for our wages. It reminds me a bit of Alexis Sanchez when he always said every club he went to, I've been a fan since as I was a child. He said it at Arsenal, he said at Man United, he said it into Milan as well. Hey there, Stephanie. Thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. Stein the Hojlander, there shall be only one. And there was another comment here: 50 million for Hojlund in 2 years. He's close to 100 million after Ten Hag improves him.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Griffo?
I don't think we get him for 50 mil though, wouldn't he? He's probably slightly more than 60, that.
60,
yeah.
65.
Which I am probably not the biggest fan of paying that much, but it's not an ideal situation as we speak right now, let alone what's going to be like in 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, Hojlund would definitely develop. Ten Hag's very good at developing players, and I think if he's outlined a player and he's like a dog with the bone, and obviously Ten Hag's the dog and Hojlund's the bone in this situation, he will want Hojlund, and he'll confident that he could develop. 60 million, not ideal. Obviously, Man United love to overplay for players. Of course they do, and we'll probably be in a situation towards the end of the window where we haven't got a striker, so we probably will end up paying. That's what we usually do. So yeah, it's frustrating. At this point, I think we should just take that 60 million and invest it into trying to find a time machine so we can go back and get, I don't know, Anthony Martial back from when it was lockdown football and when we came back from the restart when he was that good. Because that Martial was probably the best version of Martial we had, and he hasn't really shown it since.
Yeah.
Obviously, injuries. You couldn't any player, even if they're a 10 out of 10 player, you can't rely on them because they'll be injured. Players like Martial. So it's a shame about Tony, but it is what it is.
What I just want to say something about when it comes to the price of Hojlund. People got to remember one thing: it's about how much we're going to pay this season. That's what we are discussing about. It's not if it's 60 or 65 or 55. What we are talking about is for how many years are we going to pay, for example, 60 million? Can we pay it in 5 seasons, for example, or in 3 seasons? Because our liquidity as a club is very low at the moment. We don't have the money, but we can buy players. We can do as Chelsea do, like give players 8 or 9 year contracts and divide the amount for so many years. So that's what we are talking about at the moment. And that's, for example, you could see with Kim, there was a buyout clause of I think it was 45 or 50 million, but the buyout clause was right away, so we had to pay the amount right away. That's why we couldn't get Kim, because we don't have those kind of money to fill in right away. We need to get deals done for like 4 or 5 seasons, so we could pay a little by little. That's the issue with United at this transfer window, and I don't know if people is aware of this problem.
That's a good point, actually, because in terms of installments, I think Atalanta would probably be happy to do that, because didn't we get Hamad from Atalanta as well? And there was a lot of like sort of add-ons that we had regarding that. It wasn't a fixed fee. We had a lot of different add-ons with different clauses and stuff, and Atalanta were happy to do it then. So I think Atalanta are a good team to bargain with in that regard. So yeah, I think it's a good option. And as I think it was Roshmano said in the chat, this is key for us at the moment, is to get these deals, because we're low on money. We have to abide by FFP, so we do have to structure these deals in. I'll pay you half the price now and then a quarter the price for the next 4 years. It's just, but again, we heard the report that we still have a lot of unpaid transfers at the club. Do we want to add to that? I think the biggest thing that we can take away from any discussion we've had is, in any situation, whether it's a goalkeeper, whether it's a striker, whether it's the ownership, whether it's anything, there's not a perfect situation. There's not a perfect goalkeeper. There'll be pros and cons of everyone. So it's just about doing what's best for all parties, doing what's best for our finances, for the player, the 2 clubs, United and whoever we're bargaining with. So yeah, there's not an ideal situation with the club, of course not, but it's just finding the best of what we have, unfortunately. But that's just where we're at. The sooner we accept it, the sooner we can get on with the business.
The thing is, as well, though, is you see a lot of clubs, they do it in installments. You look at Chelsea, the amount of players they've got in installments at the moment. Enzo Fernandez, they've got the player who they bought from the French league in installments as well. So they do have a fair few amount of players in installments. Arsenal were looking at Declan Rice in installments as well, and that was what the argument was, why he's not over the line.
I think with Chelsea, the fact that they're giving out 8-year contracts, I'm personally not a fan, because I think if you sign, for example, the striker they've just signed, the Nicholas Jackson guy from Villarreal, I think if you sign a player like that for 8 years and we'll pay this and this and this year, and it goes to the 8th year where you pay the final bit of money, you could find your position, and especially with Chelsea, because obviously not all their players hit. They have a very interesting record of players that are either good or really bad. If this Jackson guy is really bad, they can ship him out in 2-3 years' time, and you're left paying the rest of his fee in 5 years' time. In 5 years, you're still paying for a player that's played, awfully for Chelsea 5 years previous. So it's a very risky business. I think to really do them installments and add-ons and all of that structured deals really well, you need a really good scouting department to really have the confidence that this player will be around for that long. This player will be around to, for those 8 years, so we can pay all that money. Man United don't have that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I have been reading UEFA, it's wanting to stop the 8 years installments. If you want to sign a player for 8-year contract, that's fine, but they've got to pay all the installments in 5 years. That's what they're looking at doing, and I think that is a good idea for FFP as well. I wanted to bring up this question from Simon. Pre-season is a week away, and we just have one player who's going in goal in these matches, which is a very interesting point as well, because we do have quite a few goalkeepers linked at the moment, Griffo.
Well, even with the Onana links, we could have the infamous Fabrizio Romano, here we go. We probably wouldn't have the official announcement. Like, if we have the Fabrizio Romano infamous here we go moment right now for Onana out of nowhere, we probably still wouldn't have Onana for the first game next Wednesday, because I'd like to delay and do all of that with medicals and stuff. So in terms of the first friendly, probably Henderson, to be perfectly honest, and if not Heaton. I think Heaton is a sort of player that United have played in a few games in pre-season just naturally for a few seasons when we've had him, because maybe De Gea's got an injury or here, there and there. But obviously, with a goalkeeper like Onana and with a team that's been playing a certain way for so many years like United, you need that pre-season for those two sort of different ways of playing to merge into the way Ten Hag wants to play. And the less time we get in pre-season, the more time we'll eat into the start of the season, where we might see a similar start to the season that we did last year, where we lost to Brighton and Brentford. So, but in terms of the goalkeeper, who we play on that first friendly, Henderson, I mean, a question I've got is there a situation with our budget and FFP and all of that? Is there a situation where United find the cheapest option and say, Ten Hag, make up with Henderson make up with the United fan base after your interview or whatever, and go from there? Because that's probably the cheapest option right now. Obviously, I don't think Henderson's good enough to be a number one at Man United, but with all that's going on with budget and that, is that a possible situation we could be seeing? I don't know.
That's an interesting point, because from what I've been reading, Ten Hag has actually never seen Dean Henderson in training before until
That's
this
the
week.
one thing, yeah.
Because so maybe he might like him.
Yeah, exactly. He did that interview. And it was like the first few days of Ten Hag coming in. I think that was what annoyed me the most, or not annoyed me, questioned me, let's say, the most, was here comes a new manager, a manager that's been praised by a lot of people. The fans are excited about this new manager. Why is Dean Henderson not giving him a chance? Obviously, he's got issues with probably the club, how they handled his situation and all of that. A lot of that probably stemmed from the way Ollie managed him and De Gea. There was a lot of stuff about De Gea was ill and Henderson had COVID, and before he had COVID, he was the first choice keeper. And when he had COVID, De Gea came back, and the way Ollie managed that probably wasn't the best, and it probably left a sour taste in Henderson's mouth. But that is the past. That's Ollie's not here anymore, so it always questioned me. It's probably the biggest issue I had with that interview, was that Dean Henderson wasn't willing to give it a go under Ten Hag, which is, and Ten Hag has improved all numbers of players. So if Henderson comes in, who knows, that he might slowly develop into being a United keeper. I doubt it, but we wait and see.
Thing with Henderson, I question his mentality, because it's a competitive game. You play against seasonal pros, everybody in the team, the 25-man squad wants to compete for being in the starting 11. And if Henderson sits down and whine because he lost his spot to De Gea, it says something about his mentality. You you just gotta buckle up and fight for your place, even if it takes time. And especially if you're a goalkeeper, you gotta have the right mentality. You gotta remember that sometimes coincidence will happen. You can get COVID, you will get injured, and the backup goalkeeper will be superb. So you have to just accept. You got to sit on the bench until you get you get your chance again. And I don't like Henderson. He was like a leak in the locker room, they said, and he spread a bad atmosphere and constantly whining about everything. So I'm not sure if we want Henderson back, but when it comes to what he said in the interview, I don't care about stuff like that. It's easy for him to like fix that. Just say sorry, as I said on the other show. But I question his mentality. Yes.
It's about saying sorry on the pitch as well. We've had a lot about Man United players coming out and doing these Twitter apologies that are 3 or 4 pages long. I think we'll fill up a reading note.
They didn't even write them, did they?
Yeah, that's true. So you're sort of reading, their PA or a bot that writes it or something. So Dean Henderson, if there is life at United, and of course there can be, I think an apology would be far bigger on the pitch. And it's hard for a goalkeeper because it's not a striker that can score a few goals and all of a sudden it's forgiven, or a midfielder that can put a few good performances in. A goalkeeper, they need to sustain it for a long period of time. And I think it's such a difficult position because if a striker misses an open goal, they can forget about it and they can move on. And it's remembered by fans for 5 minutes. Goalkeeper makes a mistake, as we've seen with De Gea this season. Fans will run with that for weeks, days, weeks, months, all of that. So it's so difficult for a goalkeeper. And it is a very good point about mentality. And you have to have fighting mentality, as Lucky Singer said there. And I compare the situation to what happened at Brighton. Robert Sanchez was the number one for Brighton. Roberto De Zerbi just sort of randomly assessed his 2 goalkeepers in training, thought, for my style, Jason Steele's better. I'll start playing Jason Steele. We didn't see Robert Sanchez coming out doing interviews, kicking off at the manager saying, I'm not happy with the way this goes. Yeah, if you want to leave. Obviously, if you think you're a good enough number 1 goalkeeper, then obviously you're going to want to leave and go and be a number 1 keeper elsewhere. But we didn't see Sanchez kick up a fuss, and Henderson didn't need to do what he did. But as you say, it's not the end of the world. It's an only interview. We're bigger than that, and we're better than that in the Man United fan base to hold a grudge over an interview. So I think the bridge can still be rebuilt from when it burnt, but it's all dependent on what happens with the goalkeeper situation. And there's a lot of loose ends to tie up at the goalkeeper situation at the moment.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And everyone in the chat as well, let me know what goalkeeper situation you want to do. Do you want to keep Dean Henderson, or would you go for a new goalkeeper? Well, if you want to go for a new goalkeeper, put in the chat, who do you want as your goalkeeper? Alex has said, I don't want Bailly back. We have been reading reports, I don't know if you've seen it, Jarvis, that Bailly has been basically said that he isn't part of Erik Ten Hag's plans. He needs to find a new club, and the clubs that are linked for him is Lazio and the Saudi League.
Yeah, we know we don't want Bailly back. He was great his first season with Mourinho. He came, I think he was from Villarreal, and he was like, I called him the Panther. He was so good when he played, and he could get in every tackle and he was really good. But I don't know what happened. He put his body on the line too much. He was always injured, and we don't want a player like him back. He has nothing in our team to do at the moment. I just want to come a little bit back to the goalkeeper subject. When it comes to De Gea, I read that there's a little possibility that he can come back, that we can re-sign him.
Okay.
And a lot of people are very disappointed how the club handled the Gea situation, and when he got the contract and when he wanted to sign, they pulled the contract back. And a lot of people have said it was disrespectful, and we couldn't treat a club legend like that. So my question is De Gea a club legend? Because I have one question more. we have had several goalkeepers, and we have two club legends when it comes to goalkeeper in my mind, and that's Peter Schmeichel and Van der Sar. And when it comes to those two guys, I especially when it comes to legend, I think remember a legend moment. So when it comes to Schmeichel, everybody knows a legend moment with Schmeichel. Griffo, do you know?
Yeah, Schmeichel obviously is a really good goalkeeper.
Yeah, but you mentioned one legendary moment with Schmeichel, as you remember him. Or are you old enough to remember Schmeichel?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't remember one moment, but obviously I'm aware of how much of a good goalkeeper he was at Man United, and obviously.
Okay, let's talk about Van der Sar then first. I ask you, Van der Sar, one legendary
in terms of one moment, so I don't think looking back on players and remembering one moment is good enough. I think that I think we have to remember these players for what they were, not just one moment. I get what you're saying about that one moment and all sorts. I remember Van der Sar's last game; it was fantastic, and I was quite young at the time, and I remember I was quite upset when Van der Sar left because I thought he was, he should put in one of the best performances I've seen from a goalkeeper at my young age in his last game. So I was upset then. But I think looking back, you shouldn't be judging players off of a singular moment. And
no, I'm not saying that. But my point is, when it comes to Schmeichel, he had a legendary save in the semi-final in the treble season against Arsenal.
Can I also mention one with Schmeichel with the performance against Newcastle? What helped us win the title in 94-95?
Yes. But as the most of people mentioned the penalty save against Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final, and the same with the save in the Champions League final for Van der Sar in 2008. That's two legendary moments. When it comes to De Gea, because someone asked me, give me one legendary moment with De Gea, and I had trouble because he have had some brilliant saves, but does he have any legendary moments?
You have to apply context to what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but Schmeichel and Van der Sar were both our goalkeepers in moments where we were in a lot of semi-finals. We were in a lot of finals. De Gea was our goalkeeper and our best player in probably our worst period, especially in recent years. So I think it's harder to be a legend at Man United when we're not winning stuff that Man United is so accustomed to. So I think, that obviously De Gea's had games where he's, I remember against Arsenal, I think we won the game 3-1. Yeah. He made about 11, 12 saves. There's games like that. And there'll be games, of course, for Edmund van der Sar as well. And the semi-final save about Schmeichel as well. So everyone has moments. I think when you ask if De Gea is a legend, that's probably the debate that half of the United fan base will adamantly disagree with you. The other half adamantly agree. There's sort of not really a halfway point in the De Gea debate, and it looks to be over now. So I think, I get what you're saying, but I think you have to apply context to this. And I think we look back on De Gea less than we look back on Van der Sar and Schmeichel because of where United were at that current stage. But I personally still think, with on my knowledge, that Schmeichel and Van der Sar were better keepers than De Gea. But I think just because there's been better keepers before him at the club doesn't necessarily mean he's not a legend. I don't think they can
not at all. I'm not trying to disrespect De Gea, not at all. He's a top player of the club. But for me, I'm old. I'm 45 years old, so I have a different, I would say, a level when it comes to legends, because we have had so many. It's longevity is not the only thing. You need to have longevity. You have to have some key moments, and you have to win trophies. For me, that's just my definition. I don't have.
Here's the question then. I think would De Gea have been looked back on more fondly if, for example, it was him in Van der Sar's position when we won the Champions League, the Premier League in 2008? Would De Gea look a bit more fondly when he'd be the treble winning keeper in 99? I think, he would. And then how would Schmeichel and Van der Sar look in De Gea's position of being the best goalkeeper and the best player for United in so many years. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, and we have to judge players in the context they're in because that's all we have to go off. But we also have to mention about the eras they played in, the teams they played in.
Yeah, I agree with both your points completely. People have been mentioning in the chat as well, Jarvis, on some memorable moments for both Van der Sar and Peter Schmeichel in the chat. One being mentioned, the penalty shootout for Van der Sar, which is definitely one that I would have thought.
I know for a fact De Gea wouldn't have had that moment.
No, but he wouldn't. But the thing is, right, I don't know why, but I've just been arguing with too many Chelsea fans recently. And the one thing is, even though De Gea can't save a penalty in the penalty shootout, it still would have happened with John Terry's miss because he skied it. True. So we still would have won the Champions League anyway. So De Gea or no De Gea.
I think Mr. Tickle couldn't even save that with his long arms. It was that far over the crossbar.
Nick has said the semi-final against Arsenal being 1-2. Berber said Van der Sar is the mould we need right now. I completely agree with that. We need him up there as well. Not just on the pitch, we need him up there.
Yeah.
Mad Elsa said Owen is a United legend for scoring the winner against the Scousers. Lol.
But I get the point.
That's about moments as well.
Dwayne has said, just keep Maguire, De Gea and Shaw. I could do with a laugh. To be honest, though, De Gea has Shaw has been good this season, so I will. I don't think Shaw's got nothing really to be laughed at, really. But there was one what Berber mentioned in the chat, Sergio Romero at Manchester United, and I think if anyone felt like they was disrespected, it should be him. Surely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He was a perfect number 2 goalkeeper, and at a time should have been the number 1 goalkeeper. You know, the situations that happened with him. I think he was an ideal number 2. You know, he never kicked up a fuss necessarily. I know he said a few comments since leaving United, nothing, you know, to write home about, but a player that is, you know, happy enough being back up, and of course had his grievances as anyone would in the situation he was put in, but you know, kept quiet about it.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with that, and I think for me with Sergio Romero, he could have very easily been a number 1, and I think if he was at any other club, he would have been a number 1 goalkeeper without a doubt. I think for me I know this is a long. This is I don't know how popular this is going to be, but based off Man United and in general, he's one of the best backup goalkeepers in history. Because I think he was spectacular.
I agree. I think when you say backup goalkeeper, that's who I think of.
Yeah.
I would say the best backup keeper in history, especially when it comes to World Cup history. I don't know if you guys remember, but Argentina had their goalkeeper. I think his name was Pompidou. He was injured against Cameroon in the opening game in the 1990 World Cup, and in came I think his name was Sergio Goycochea. And he was their backup goalkeeper, and he brought them all the way to the final, and he won the penalty shootouts in, I think it was 3 of the knockout stages, and they lost on a penalty against West Germany in the final. So everybody thought he would save them then, but you know, he was really good.
I think backup goalkeeper is an interesting position because how often do goalkeepers get injured? Hardly ever. So you're always sort of being very, very patient, waiting for your time. You'll play the occasional cup game. I think the way Man City have utilised Ortega in the cup, and especially we saw in the FA Cup final, you know, it's so easy, and Man United have done this countless times where we've had a cup goalkeeper all the way to a final, and then we've switched goalkeepers to go to our first choice. Man City, even though with the temptation of putting Ederson in goal for that FA Cup final, because Ederson is a better keeper than Ortega, Pep said, no, Ortega, you've earned this. and it's having trust in that goalkeeper. And he obviously was a big part of that FA Cup final. Made a few saves and was obviously really good at the back. So yeah, I think it's very interesting position as the backup goalkeeper, because you are there as an emergency. While backup in any other position means you'll probably get some game time because there's injuries and stuff, keepers don't get suspended. Keepers hardly ever get injured. So it's being very patient and having the manager having the trust in you that if something goes wrong with the current existing first choice goalkeeper, you're good enough to come in and to sort of fill the void while they're gone.
Yeah, agreed. We will wrap it up from here. Thank you both, Griffo and Jarvis, for coming on. It's been a great show. Griffo, would you like to shout out your socials?
Yeah, at Charlie Griffo one on Twitter, and United Flying High. Just it was linked earlier by Stream Elements. Just keep an eye on that for any news. I'm sure we'll get the Mason Mount official announcement for Man United tomorrow. Although no, Man United will probably be next week. Who knows? So keep an eye on socials for that.
Yeah, Mason Mount, it should be tomorrow morning, so we will keep our eye out on that for sure. Jarvis, thank you as well for coming on. Would you like to shout out your socials?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Bowley77, BOLE 77, and you can of course find me on MUFC Realist TV. So check out the channel. We are growing at the moment, and we are almost at 15,000 subscribers. So we need more followers.
Yeah, go and check out both Jarvis and Griffo's socials. My YouTube channel is Devils United, so you can catch me through there. Big thank you for everyone who's watched. Berber, thank you very much. Niall, thank you very much as well. Thank you very much as well, Nick. Thanks for all coming in. Lucky Singh, I like Mason Mount, Casemiro, Ericsson, Amrabat, kudos. Yeah. Thanks for coming in, Lucky Singh. Thank you so much for coming in, Eddie. Means a lot. Thank you as well, Reese. Really appreciate that. And as Berber said, thank you to the bots. Thank you for the chat. It's been a great chat as always. We'll finish off on Rush Manuel's very important point. Glazers out. Yep. Always Glazers out. Thank you all. If I haven't shouted you out, I'm very sorry, but I do appreciate every single person's support. Have a lovely evening. And Jarvis is saying it there as well. Thank you all so much. Have a lovely evening, all. Take care. Bye bye.